if you're waiting on Facebook for the live weather show, I'm here. I was having a little trouble getting YouTube to cooperate, but it is up and running now. I'm pushing buttons for the other areas that we use, like Roku and all that stuff, and our web and our apps. And I will be with you in a second. The only thing I've forgotten is to turn on the lights so I don't look like a vampire up here. All right, here we go. All right. And this is meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer back from a 2-week vacation. First time I've had a 2-week vacation in many years, and I didn't do anything. Just enjoyed myself, and will continue to kind of have staycations for a while. I actually call it practicing for retirement. So we've got coming our way. This is our view of I-71 northbound from Mount Auburn. We are looking there at I-71 north. And while I'm talking, I tell you what, I just don't, I'm going to have to change the camera setting here a little bit. It is just way too tight. I guess other people use it in different ways. And so give me a second here, and because I can't use the monitor behind me as I want. So you know how it is. People do it their way, and it doesn't always get changed back. And so what I'm going to do is, ooh, there we go. We're starting to zoom out. The camera is right there, 10 feet away, and this is going out over the web. And besides, if it's too tight, I feel like I'm, invading your personal space, and I'm very protective of my personal space. All right, there we go. I think that'll work. May have to change it again a little bit, but thanks for joining me. I've been off for a couple weeks, as I mentioned, and I'm happy to be back. And unfortunately, the weather isn't much better, but we do have some good news to talk about, and that is a warming trend that is coming our way. And that warming trend is going to begin to kick in. Now, don't think of it as being balmy. Remember, back in December, at the end of December, we had 2 days in a row when temperatures hit the 60s. Well, that seems like a long, long time ago. We're not heading that way. We're just heading back to flirting with normal, and we'll talk all about that when we get into what's coming our way. So let's go ahead and take a look again. That's that camera shot, a crystal clear sky out there. We are looking at downtown Cincinnati from our tower cam now, and that tower cam is in South Fairmont on the other side of 75. Actually, you can see 75 down there. So straight line distance, it's about 4 miles out of downtown. And we do have first alert weather days in effect once again for tomorrow and Wednesday. Bitter cold continues. Morning wind chills will drop to below 0 both tomorrow and Wednesday, but Wednesday looks to be the colder of the 2 days. And I often get asked, well, why do you put these first alert weather days out? And sometimes when we have like tornado watches and the life-threatening severe weather or life-threatening flash floods, that's one thing that you can issue first alert weather days for. The other times it's just a heads up. Okay, now those of us that live in the city, it's like, okay, you have to walk maybe a couple blocks sometimes to get somewhere. But if you live out in the country, if you live in a rural area and your child has to walk a quarter mile down a farm road to wait for the school bus, wind chill below 0 is a big deal. And so we're not only looking out for the people that live in the city and the suburbs where life's a little bit easier when it comes to cold weather, but for the rural areas too. And so in this case, the first alert weather day is to let you know, to grab your attention, to let you know that bitter cold is continuing for a couple of more days. So how cold is it going to be? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. Well, let's see, how many buttons going to hit wrong? There. Now, after 3 tries, I finally got it right. Here's what the forecast is from one model, which has been doing a pretty good job, and is a good idea what's going to happen. This is for 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. We're looking at wind chills from 0 at the warmest to maybe 6, 7, 8 below 0 in spots around the tri-state. And then Wednesday looks colder. Look at this, and I'll explain why that's going to happen. So again, you can see that it varies around the region, and a lot of it has to do more with exposure to wind. But if we take a look at Wednesday's low wind chills, 7 a.m. Wednesday, we're looking at 12 below in the Connersville and Liberty areas. That would also apply to College Corner, Oxford, 10 below in Batesville, 7 below Hamilton, 10 and 11 below for Lebanon and Wilmington, even in the city about 6 below. So Wednesday is going to be a bitter cold morning around the tri-state. There is little doubt about that. And the cold weather advisory continues for everybody in the Fox 19 Now viewing area. And then again, after all that cold weather, we are going to have a little bit of an improvement heading back to normal. Okay. Now, if you remember over the past few months, if you've been watching over the past few months, we talked about the extended outlook. And I spent a lot of time looking at all the models, all the trends, all the historical, we call them historical analogs. In other words, hey, look at this. This summer and winter, this summer and fall looked like this year, so maybe it's going to happen the same. That's what a historical analog is like if a series of events happens in the past, it may be a series of events that will be repeated itself, especially if you have the first few steps of that already in place. So, and when I put out the forecast for the winter, I was saying, hey, mid-January into the beginning of February shouldn't be too bad unless the La Nina doesn't develop like they expected it to. Okay, and for a long time, models are saying a big, strong La Nina. And La Nina, again, is the global circulation as it's affected by the water temperatures along the equator in the Pacific. And in the La Nina case, it's colder than normal. And we have a typical set of kind of winter events that happen with a La Nina pattern. And so when I put out my winter forecast, I said if the La Nina develops, and it was one of those where I couldn't pin down anything, the La Nina wasn't developing, but it could. And so I said, if the La Nina develops, it'll be fairly mild with a chance for a few cold air outbreaks mid-January into February. However, if the La Nina doesn't develop or develops late in this very week, we're going to get blasted in January, and that's exactly what's happened. And the good news is, and actually when I said we would get blasted in January, I said then we're going to have a nice warming trend, a slight one though, and a slow one that'll take us to around normal by the beginning of February. And that looks like what's happening. We officially have a La Nina now, okay, but it came in so late, it's so weak, it's really nothing. I mean, it's like if you're driving down a road and you run into a rock that's 10 feet tall, that's going to damage your car, but if you hit a pebble, it might give you a flat tire. And so the difference between a pebble and this big boulder is what we have now. This La Nina is the pebble, and it really doesn't have much to do with our winter other than the fact that we're getting blasted with Arctic air, and that's what to expect if you get a La Nina that doesn't quite develop and develops late. Okay, so temperatures right now look like this. It's 9 at CVG, 3 in Richmond, 5 in Washington Courthouse and Chillicothe, 9 in Wilmington, 6 in Maysville, 10 in Shelbyville. Now take a look at what the wind chill values are. Wind chill 1 at CVG, 1 below in Falmouth, 5 below in Maysville, 0 at Lunken, 11 in Batavia, 1 below in Wilmington, 2 below in Middletown, 8 below Richmond, and 4 below in Batesville. So it's cold out there, and the wind chills are not going to get any better. The winds will die down a little bit overnight, but we're still, with temperatures dropping to 5 below to 5 above, wind chills will be around 0 or below. By Wednesday morning, though, even colder, and I'll show you why now. Now, take a look at this. Okay, what we have here is satellite loop, and you can see the main polar jet. Look at this, right on here. This is the main polar jet sweeping across the country way to the south. Okay, now the polar jet is what energizes the weather systems that come our way. So with the polar jet this far south, you can see this precipitation develop in Oklahoma and Texas is going to head this way, kind of hug the polar jet. It'll get close enough to us to bring us a few flurries tomorrow, but that's about it. And the real reason we're going to get flurries is not from this, but right in here there's a little bit of a front. So let's go ahead and add that on. Okay, so there are the winds of the with the polar jet. Okay, so here are the winds of the main polar jet stream right down here, and there's a secondary jet. We call this a split flow regime. There's essentially a jet here and a jet here, and so this one is pushing a cold front coming our way. So there's more Arctic air up here. It's pushing that cold front down our way. As the cold front comes through, we might get a few flurries, but what we're really going to get is a reinforcing shot of cold air, and so our weather Wednesday morning will be colder than tomorrow morning. So let's add some more information. We'll take off the jet stream winds and add some other information here. So this is the surface map, And what you have here is you've got the Arctic air that's dominating our weather right now. It's, again, here's the jet stream, and on the cold side of the jet, this high pressure system is cold. Here's the reinforcing Arctic air. It's colder than this Arctic air, and this front is the dividing line. This is the leading edge of this cold air mass, okay? And so when that front comes through here, we're going to see a few flurries, and then we're going to be even colder for Wednesday morning than we were today. So let's go ahead, again, add some different information on this. Let's look at some temperatures back at 6 p.m. Okay, so these are the 6 p.m. temperatures that you see. So Cincinnati was 10 with a wind chill of 1 above 0. On the other side of the front, so this is in the Arctic air we have now, on the other side of the front in the new fresh Arctic air mass, you've got 9 below for the actual temperature. This is at 6 p.m. our time in Minneapolis with a wind chill of 20 below 0. That's the air that's coming our way. Now, we're not going to be this cold because as air moves out of Canada and moves across the warmer ground here, I mean, obviously the ground here is warmer than way up here in Canada. It becomes modified a little bit, so it won't be quite that cold. But that shows you that this air mass is considerably colder than what we've got now. And so we were looking at wind chills, again, Wednesday morning, that will be as low as 10 to 12 to maybe 15 below in a few locations. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens. Now remember where the jet stream is, the main jet that's powering this. Now notice it's got more snow down here, it's got a little bit up this way, so the model doesn't have a perfect handle on this, but the power, the energy for this system is right down here in the jet stream, and so this will follow the jet stream. So with the jet that far south, it looks like it's too far south to really bring us any kind of problem. So there you see it, most of the snow heads off to the east, stays on. Look at that, New Orleans may get some snow out of this. That's kind of unusual for someplace that far south. Put that into motion and notice there's just not much there. And all you see as we head on into Friday is maybe a few flurries around the tri-state. And sometimes those really, really cold air masses can squeeze moisture out of the air, and so we'll have a few flurries. But the only good thing for most people about Arctic air like this is that you really don't usually get much in the way of precipitation. That's a big problem causer. Okay, let's see what happens though. As we head past Friday into Saturday and Sunday, there we go. Sunday, 8:40 a.m., we're looking at this system. Now remember, we're still under Arctic air, but the Arctic air is pushing off to the east. We're beginning a warming trend, and so it's going to be a race. This says that we're going to see some snow come into the tri-state, 8:40 a.m. Sunday. Off to the south and west, there'll be some rain, but there's still enough cold air for Kansas into Missouri for there being a little mix or a little bit of snowfall. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to take this out of the and I'm going to manually move this along so we can see this a little bit better. Okay, I've got to do a lot of things to do that, unfortunately. All right. So that is 8:40 a.m. Sunday. As we head through the day on Sunday, let me give it to you full screen. You can see that we end up with a large area of snow over us. Now, right now I'm not too worried. I'm thinking that we start off as snow and go over to rain, but we're going to have cold surfaces. It's going to be hard to really think that this is not going to be much, but we may have some issues on Sunday. Now, what we're looking at, I want you to see, and I've talked about this thing before, and it's one of the things that a meteorologist looks for. It's called the deformation zone, okay? It's where you've got a big high pressure system moving in here, so the air around that high is flowing like this. You've got a low pressure system down here, so the air around there is flowing like that. So what you've got then is you've got the air like this, the air like this, so both of them are coming in together and they're stretching this out. And so that way, let's say you take a cube of air and you have it come into this deformation zone, it gets stretched out, okay? Remember the 5th and 6th of January? That's exactly what happened on the 5th and 6th of January. We ended up in the deformation zone. So we got snow, we got a break, and then we went into snow on the 6th, Monday, and we got a lot. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen this time, but notice we are, according to this model, we're in that deformation zone, and if this travels like this, we could see a snow for an extended period of time, and look what this model is saying. And again, I haven't looked at this enough. I'm just back from vacation, so I'm a little bit rusty on what's going on here. I've been working. We've got a weather special coming up Saturday at noon, and I was working on editing, putting that together, and shooting video to get that put together, so I didn't have a lot of time to pay attention to the weather. And so right now I'm saying probably a mix of rain and snow, but if this storm eases a little bit further south, it'll be cold enough for there to be more snow. Now let's see what happens with the deformation zone. So right in here is the deformation zone. So let me tell you what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go, let's just keep it this way. It takes too much time to reset this. And so again, high pressure system up here, winds going like this out of the northeast, low pressure system down here, winds coming out of the east-southeast, and that takes and stretches that. So if you take a cube of air from here or a cube of air from here, and it gets into this deformation zone, the winds tend to stretch it out, and that is where you get that snowfall. So I'm kind of worried about this. However, there's a lot of time for this to change. Okay, so let's go ahead, go a little bit farther forward. Okay, now we're going to stop the clock right there at Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Notice, according to this model, we're still in the snow. Okay, down to the south, there's a mix. There's rain. Basically, from Frankfort and Lexington southward, it's rain. A little bit of a mix that may touch southern Owen, Grant counties on over into Lewis and southern Mason counties, and then the rest of it's snow. And we'll have to take a look at the temperatures here in just a minute and see what's going to happen. So we are definitely talking about the possibility of a snow event Sunday. I mean, it could all be light rain and snow mixed. At this point, it's too early to call, but I just want to give you a heads up that we may have to talk about some more wintry weather coming up on Sunday. And then let's go a little bit further ahead. Okay, now we're at 10:30 p.m. We're still in the snow. Now look what happens. It starts to die out and it regenerates back here in Missouri into southern Illinois as another little upper level low comes in. So this is the first one here, but there's another little bundle of energy coming into this along with the jet stream that's making this redevelop, and that often happens in that deformation zone. So notice this is 3:30 a.m. Monday morning, all right? And so we'll go a little bit further forward in time. Okay, there is 6:10 a.m. Monday, right smack dab in the middle of snow. Okay, and then by the time we get to Monday at, let's say, 5:10 p.m., it looks like the back edge of the snow is still along, and this white is just flurries, along Interstate 71. So we may have to watch this one, all right? And let's tell you what, let's go a little bit further on, see what happens. Okay, then as we head on into Tuesday morning, into Wednesday, nothing going on. Yep, there we go, another little front coming through. So maybe some light flurry or snow activity on Thursday, and then that's where this model ends, I think. Yeah, that's where this model ends. Okay, so I'm getting kind of worried about this. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to put this into edit mode here, kind of like doing this stuff on the fly. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this into edit mode. I'm going to add what the model thinks the temperature in Cincinnati will be, and then we'll go through that all that stuff again. So go to the wind chill layer. Okay, let's see, that is, okay, so that's the temperature right there, and that is in, okay, that's the Cincinnati temperature, just wanted to make sure. Okay, so, and you know what might help? Let me do this, since I'm into this and I'm editing it live for you here. Nothing like the web and the internet and live streaming to put you on the inside of what we do. So, what I'm going to do is go and this is a windshield layer, it's got a scene layer, and it's got a background layer. And so the camera is in the scene layer, of course. And so I'm going to take and I am going to zoom in here. I think I am. What is going on? I feel like I've forgotten everything I know since I was on vacation for 2 weeks. You know that feeling. It's like, oh my gosh, what's changed? There we go. Now I got it. Okay. Okay, so this should give us a better view. There's our viewing area. Okay, set that. Save it. Okay, now let's go back here through this whole thing. And then you'll see behind me here. So here's our viewing area. This is the temperature Monday at 7:30 p.m. The model forecasts 12 degrees. It's about 3 degrees too warm. So let's see with that deformation zone and that what happens when we look at it more closely. Okay, so back to full screen. And let me put this into motion now. I'm just going to do it by hand, so it may be jumpy a little bit. Okay, so there it's got actual temperatures down into the single digits, down. Look at that. That's the actual temperature for Wednesday, just after midnight. And it doesn't get much colder than that. It begins to warm up. Okay, there. Oh, look at that. 32. We hit freezing according to this model on Thursday, and we'll look at our 7-day forecast coming up. All right, put this back into motion. You see some scattered shower activity developing off to the south and west for Friday. And right in there, they're close enough we can't say you won't have a flurry in Cincinnati. Oh, did you see that? 37 degrees Saturday at 5:10 p.m., so above freezing. And we'll look at our forecast coming up here. And here comes that system. Okay, so this is 8 a.m. on Sunday, and you can see, now again, I want to remember, this is 7 days in the future. Things can change quite a bit by then. And I've always wanted to do this when I'm broadcasting. Listen. And it's Diet Mountain Dew. Okay, so, and my voice is drying out, so excuse me. So 8 a.m. Sunday, here we have it, just the beginning. And remember, this is a ways in the future, so things could change quite a bit before we get there. This thing could go way to the south. The trend now is to bring it to the north, and so this is just a heads up. Just keep in mind that Sunday into Monday coming up, maybe a snow day or two. And right now the models are indicating that, but things could change, and we just want to make sure you know what's going on. I'm not forecasting it's going to happen. I'm telling you this is what the models are saying, and we'll keep an eye on it throughout the week and let you know in more detail how things change. Okay, so. And again, Sunday into Monday could end up being first alert weather days depending on what happens, but it's way too early to call now. You can always tell a person who really doesn't know what they're doing in forecasting the weather from a person that really does. And some of it is just for hype, but believe me, we don't do that here. But overall, if somebody would look at this and say, oh my gosh, I'm putting out a first alert weather day for Sunday into Monday, then not a good idea. They don't know what they're doing. Because this could change so much by then. You saw those warmer temperatures. If the thing goes a little bit farther north, it could be rainy and in the 40s. If it goes further south, it could be nothing but flurries. If it stays on this track, well, we're going to have some snow. And those are all big ifs at this point. So, and so I know there'll be people already talking about it and flashing lights and all that, but it's too early to tell what's going to happen with this system. However, forewarned is forearmed, so you know to expect it, and if you join us for the rest of the week, you'll see how we discuss this and how it changes from time to time. Okay, so that is Sunday at 8:10 a.m. There's Sunday at 11:30 a.m., and notice it looks like the heaviest snow, according to this, would be in the southern half of our viewing area. By 11:30 a.m. Sunday, still nothing up in Fayette and Union counties. It'll be Connersville and Liberty, probably nothing in College Corner, and probably just a little bit there in the Oxford area. Okay, and so let's see what happens as we go forward, up, and then it gets bigger. Now notice what's happening here. Okay, stop right there. Okay, so you see this deformation zone. Whenever it stretches out like this, this is the deformation zone. Go away. This is the touch screen, and I hit it and it brought that up. So here's your deformation zone right here. Here's the main area of precipitation. Here's the trailing edge. And what happens in summer with thunderstorms, you get what they call training. In other words, the thunderstorm after thunderstorm follows the same path, like railroad cars follow the railroad tracks. That's why it's called training. This deformation zone right here, if it follows this path, notice we could have hours and hours and hours of snowfall coming down. Again, big if, question mark, may not happen. And that's exactly what happened when we were looking at the forecast that Sunday into Monday, the 5th and 6th. Ethan Emery and I were here that Sunday night, and we're looking at this, and it's like, oh my gosh, the precipitation has a little break here, but all this stuff back into southern Kansas is coming our way, and that's why we ended up getting that 10.6 inches of snowfall. Okay, so let's go back to this. put this back into motion. Okay, it looks like the things are drying out. Now notice how the deformation zone is kind of ended right there at the Mississippi River in the St. Louis area. Okay, put it into motion a little bit more. So this is 8:40 p.m. on Sunday. So this is saying most of the day on Sunday we have got snow. But what I forgot to mention, since I turned on the temperatures, notice this. Okay, 31. So that would qualify it as a wet snow, not this icy stuff we've been having. Still 31 at 10:50 a.m., 39 by 2:40 p.m. So I'm thinking if the temperature comes true, I'm thinking you're talking about a rain-snow mix there more than just snow. And even if it's just snow at 39 degrees, that means wet roads. So right now it's not looking like a big disaster. Okay, let's keep going forward. So still 6 p.m., still coming down 39, drops by 8 o'clock to 33, stays at 33 just before midnight, drops to below freezing by Monday at 1:20 a.m. And notice how it's regenerated. Now, the deformation zone is now extending all the way back into southwest Missouri. And so we may have an all-nighter coming up, again, if this model verifies, and it's just something we're going to watch. I mean, it's going to require a lot of effort. Now, watch what happens as we head into 5:10 a.m. This is worrisome. You see this? 30 degrees. See the darker blue? This model is saying that another upper-level disturbance in the jet stream is going to catch up with this. This is going to intensify, and there'll be more snow there. But below freezing, so it'll be a wet, slick, slushy snow. Good news is road treatment works very well. Bad news is if you're in a rural area where they can't treat all the roads, it may not be a good deal. Okay, let's go with that. So this is 6:20 a.m. By 8:10, well, let's see, actually by right there by 7 a.m., 26 degrees. So that snow would be sticking. And then by Monday at 12:50 p.m., it's coming to an end. There's the back edge along Interstate 71 by about 6:50 on Monday, and then it pushes off to the south and east, and by the time we get to 10:20 p.m., it is long gone. And then again, so that's the end of the temperatures also. But so that is what we're looking at. Again, that is Sunday into Monday of next week. So it's day 7 and day 8. So it's a long way out. That low pressure system could go to the north and bring us warm, wet weather. It could go to the far south and bring us cold and flurries. If it stays on the current forecast track, we're going to have issues with it, and I'll keep you updated on that each day. We'll take a look at this in detail every day through the week, and we'll look at the trend. And we have a little saying in weather circles and forecasting, hey, the trend is your friend. And the corollary to that is until it isn't. So. And what we mean by that is, let's say you're watching several models, and all the models are a little bit different. They all begin to converge on a common storm track. And then the trend for all those models is to bring that track north. You're saying, okay, if that's the trend, we should consider going with the trend, and the trend is your friend in that case. However, not everything works perfectly in meteorology, as you all know that. I mean, we've all had busted forecasts that, you look at it and think, what are they talking about? However, so we say the trend is your friend until it isn't. So you've always got to be careful. And number 2, so anybody that would put out a first alert weather day today for Sunday and Monday doesn't have your best interest at heart and really doesn't know what they're talking about. Number 2 is that, I just forgot what number 2 was. So when the trend is your friend, a lot of things can change in a very, very different way. And not all the models will agree with this. This was the one that has the greatest reputation for being accurate, and so we'll just keep an eye on it, and things could change. They always do change at least a little bit, but they could change. So I don't want you to get worried about, but we've got the potential for another significant snowfall coming up Sunday into Monday. All right, so let me get out of edit mode here, and we'll go look at the rest of what we're supposed to be looking at here. Find out where I am. All right, and we'll go to the forecast overnight tonight. And I'll go to full screen for you. Okay, so again, we're keeping an eye on Sunday into Monday, and right now it looks like a rain-snow mix. And wet snow when it does fall, but there could be a significant accumulation out of it. Big if. Okay. So overnight down to about 5 degrees. I think many areas will be colder than that. It's already 9 at CVG, but in situations like this, with that front coming our way, we're getting a little bit warmer air moving in here, so it's going to be hard for it to fall off too much more below 5. And sunrise at 7:54 tomorrow. Okay, now here's what the Climate Prediction Center says. This is a new one out today. They put us in the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook that goes the 26th of January, this way, 26th of January to the 30th of January. It's got the cold air shifting way out to the west. Really good news for them. Hopefully it'll be cold and wet, and we'll look at that in a minute. But they've got all this part of the country that's been so frozen for the past couple weeks that we'll be back to near normal. And we'll look at that in our forecast coming up. Okay, that is the 6 to 10 day outlook. Days 8 to 14, which takes us out to the 3rd of February. One day past the day that the weather rat gets so much attention. I say that with, whoops, let's go back. I say that with a smile on my face. People around here know that, the groundhog, I call it the weather rat. Professional jealousy. So, okay, let's go back here. The 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. Now notice what's going on here. You've got a large area here where it's warmer than normal, and this warmer than normal pattern is beginning to creep into the Fox 19 now viewing area. So it looks like most of our area will be at near normal, but a little bit warmer than normal as we head toward the 3rd of February. And that's consistent with what I said in the scenario in the winter forecast, that if the La Nina doesn't develop, we'll probably get slammed with cold air in January and then slowly warm up to above normal as we head through into February. And now here is the 3 to 4 week out temperature outlook. Came out on Friday, and it has us near normal. Okay, and that takes us to the middle of February, so past Valentine's Day. And again on this, notice there's still a big area of cold air up here. We'll have to see where that is going to go. However, we're starting to get into that La Nina pattern, so we expect that we shouldn't have another outbreak that like this of an extended nature for a while. Okay, back to full screen. Let's take a look at the precipitation pattern. It has us in the 6 to 10 day outlook, slightly above normal. That would fit with that storm coming our way Sunday and the Monday of next week. They have us a little bit above normal to near normal, depending upon how far east or west you are in the viewing area for days 8 to 14. And then 3 to 4 week precipitation outlook. This is what we affectionately call the La Nina pattern, okay? The La Nina pattern is like this. The main jet stays up here like this, okay, and then you've got the subtropical jet kicking up, bringing systems out of the southwest, okay, and those systems out of the southwest drag Gulf of Mexico moisture northward, and in a typical La Nina winter, this is where the highest precipitation is recorded. We're near the bullseye of it. So I'm skeptical, because everybody's been saying La Nina, La Nina, La Nina, so I don't want to hear about a La Nina anymore. However, the La Nina, it is officially a La Nina now because of the way the atmosphere and the ocean are working together. It's weak, so it's not going to have that big of an impact on us, and it's not going to stay with us that long, although they do expect it to stay active into April. And so this may lead us into fairly wet weather as we head to the middle and past the middle of the month of February. And the problem with this is that would put storm track, so here's the cold air track, here's the storm track. That would lead to the potential, and again, potential, not forecasting it, we have to watch how it develops, the potential for a very active severe weather season March into April. Okay, so we're going to keep our eyes on that also, if in fact this pattern does develop as we head on into the end of the month of February. All right, and here's a look at the 3 to 4 week. Oops, I didn't want to do that one. Forget that. There we go. There it is. The winter outlook also had us with precipitation like that. They had the La Nina pattern. That hasn't developed up until now, but we are now beginning to get into that La Nina pattern. Okay, so, hey, I was out. We have that, as I told you, we have that weather special program coming up Sunday. Sorry, erase that. Saturday at noon, and it's a winter weather special. We've all put our heads together and come up with that. I had to shoot some stuff this morning for the close of the show, and so I was out at Alt Park, and I did my shooting right around that with the American flag in the background, and I thought it made a nice look here. Now, one of the issues here, it looks kind of pale, kind of overexposed, because it was shot on an iPhone in high definition, and the high definition iPhone video doesn't always translate very well when it's put into an editing program, although I could have fixed that. I just didn't notice it at the time. I always like that pale blue of a January morning, the red, white, and blue standing out in front of it. There's the winter trees, so I just thought that was a nice sight. Thought you might like to see that. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our 7-day forecast. Tonight's low down to 5, high tomorrow 13, -2 and 22 on Wednesday, both days, first alert weather days, entirely for the cold, okay? We do have that small chance for a few flurries tomorrow, and really, believe me, insignificant. Do not have anything that will impact your day. Well, with the cold weather and a few flurries and the wind chills close to or below 0, it just kind of adds to it. The bitter cold continues. Now, notice Wednesday is the coldest morning on that 7-day forecast. We dropped to -2 in our forecast. It doesn't take much for the wind chill to be 10 below when the temperature's -2. So those are the two first alert weather days. Now, Thursday, low of 15, high of 33, 19 and 32 on Friday. We might see a flurry on Friday. 22 and 40 on Saturday and partly cloudy. Now, right now, we're saying a high temperature of 42 on Sunday. Okay, now, what can change this? Well, the track of the low can change this high temperature a lot. If the low develops more and heads a little bit more to the north, this is what we'll get. If the low doesn't develop much and the high pressure system to the north dominates, it'll stay colder than this, and if it stays cold enough, we'll just end up with flurries. But right now, according to that model we just looked at, it could be more snow than anything. So this is what we're sticking with right now over the next few runs. We'll see what the trend is. As we know, the trend is your friend. So that's the 7-day forecast. Okay, so back to full screen. So there you have a good look at what's going to happen. And again, no big weather system coming our way until maybe Sunday into Monday. And right now, we're thinking, it doesn't look like a big deal, but things are beginning to change. And so potentially Sunday and Monday are first alert weather days. Okay, so go to beyond the 7-day forecast. And here's what you've got. You've got high temperatures. Now, the normal high by the time this is over is back into the low 40s. And so we're hugging normal. Remember, I mentioned earlier that we had the forecast that I put out said if we don't get the La Nina, we'll end up getting blasted in January, and then we'll climb back and flirt with normal into February, and that's what's happening here. Both highs and lows near normal. That Tuesday and Wednesday, which would be after the Sunday, Monday potential system, could both have a few sprinkles or showers. And then as we head on into the beginning of February, it's going to look very, very active with more systems bringing us rain and or snow. Okay, here's the summary graphic of all this. What we're looking at in the 7-day plus is this. Look at the warming trend there. Okay, when we put the normal on there, you'll see what happens. Okay, so the normal high rises from 39 to 41, the normal low from 22 to 23, and notice that we are heading back to normal. Okay, so when I say a warming trend, we're not going back to the 60s like we had at the end of December. That's not going to happen. We're heading back to around normal, okay? So we're going to be flirting with normal on the high side. We're going to be flirting with normal on the low side. And that warming trend brings in the possibility of more storms, and so it could be very active here and continue on into the end of February and the beginning of March. And right now, I'm seeing signs that March could be fairly stormy. Okay. I shot my mouth off enough. Let me go over to Facebook, see what we got as far as comments and that go. It looks like we got a few here. Let's see. So Melvin Stone Street says, well, wait a minute. Melvin, I'm sorry. I didn't go far enough up. Susan Wally says, no, and maybe I don't know. Things are jumping around here. Melvin Stone Street, welcome back, Steve. No, it's going to be cold Tuesday and Wednesday. How was my weekend? My vacation was great. I didn't do much at all, although I did work on the weather special that we have coming up Saturday at noon. Okay, Susan Wally says, Susan, every time I go to take a look at what you say, it jumps away for some reason. I'll get to you eventually. David Linville, if I hear anything about snow, just fine with me. David must plow or something, because I tell you what, the guys that run those snow plows or privately plow parking lots have been really busy, and they've done a good job. I mean, you know, you have a record-setting snowstorm, or almost record-setting. Penny Elaine says, you are crazy, dude. Maybe I'm just an old man, and I'm losing it, Peggy, but thank you. All right. Teresa Lowe Jefferson, how many days until spring? All right, so let's see. Let's look up. I don't know the exact time or date, so I'm going to look that up right now. The vernal equinox, and then I just got a thing from licorice.com and ended up there somehow. The vernal equinox 2025. It occurs March 20th at 5:10 a.m. So this is January 20th. That's 5:01 a.m. January 20th to February 20th to March 20th. So that's 60 days. But there's one less, so 59 days, if I did my arithmetic right. So 59 days until spring, but it could be a really interesting 59 degrees, or days. Rowena Laws says, on vacation this week, home under my blankets. And I don't blame you, Rowena. Okay. Will La Nina give us a nice summer, asks Susan Wally. Usually the La Nina fades in the summer, but leading up to that, we typically don't have really hot, dry weather like we had last year. And you know what? The snow that we got, you know, I know some people reported 15 inches in that, but this was the best thing that could happen to our soil moisture because we pretty much recharged it. But now the snow's sitting there, it's going to slowly melt, sink in, and we should have fully recharged soil getting ready for a growing season coming up. So that's really a nice help. Katrina Krebs now bails. Okay, Katrina. Any more real snow this winter? I think the next chance is Sunday into Monday, but it'll be more of a wetter snow than we had in the big one just a few weeks ago. But we're going to keep an eye on that. So Sunday into Monday, possibly, but that's big if. Okay, David Perry said tornadoes will be bad this year. They could be. It's really difficult to say. I don't want to panic anybody. I don't want to give anybody a false impression. But if the weather systems stack up the way they look like they're going to, it'll probably be a very active, severe weather season. It doesn't mean necessarily right here in our area. It could be, further south or further north. But it looks like it'll be very active. So Molly Purcell Pollock says, hello, Steve. The Arctic air can go, so ready for spring now. I'm pretty much staying warm, although I was cold this morning when I was out there for about an hour at Alt Park in Cincinnati shooting that video. And I've got the kind of clothing and equipment that you can spend a week outside in for backpacking in this kind of weather. But I guess I'm getting old because it didn't feel so good, to tell you the truth. Let's see what's going on here. All right, I just want to make sure I was on camera because it's not polite to talk and talk and talk without you seeing me. David Perry says, don't go on vacation this time of year. Okay, David. As a matter of fact, as of the 21st of May will be my last day, and I will be retired then. So, thanks, Jenny Gorman. Okay, so yeah, Molly Purcell says, wow, more snow next weekend. Put a big question mark back there, Molly, because, yeah, it's been a snowy January. We've had, 15 and a half inches so far this January alone. And only had 2.5 in December, so it's been a snowy winter so far, but most of it in January. Hi, Shelley Seaman, how are you? Tina Wolf is ready for summer. Sharon Wilgenbush, thanks from Guilford, Indiana. You're welcome, Sharon. Jenny Gorman, thank you from West Union. You're very welcome out there in Adams County. Just a second, I got to ban somebody. Okay, band. All right, so, all right, where are we now? So Richard actually said, "We miss you when you retire." Well, that's thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say, because this is my 48th year doing TV weather. Time for me to enjoy life a little bit more, walk my dogs more often, have some more time with my wife, and just enjoy what time I've got left. So, but I've already talked to them about during severe weather times or whenever needed to occasionally fill in and help around the station, because after doing it for this long, it's kind of hard just to stop. Teresa Lowe Jefferson, you're welcome. Okay, so, and Lori Belcher says, has an appointment on the 29th. Yeah, I don't think anything big on the 29th, Lori. Thank you, Jenny Gorman. Okay, will Mike Allen wants to say, will the evenings be slightly warmer than mornings in the next couple of days? Well, yeah, it takes, although I think by Wednesday evening we're going to begin to showing a warming trend, but tonight, tomorrow morning, all through Tuesday, it's just going to be bitter cold. There's not much we can do about that. I don't know. Anderson Lachey, okay, it's spelled differently than Nick Lachey. Will Cincinnati Public Schools be closed tomorrow? I do not know. I haven't heard about that yet. Typically, they don't close them, but I think Wednesday morning is a better chance with it being even colder. Paul Pollitt says, you were my math and homeroom teacher in the 7th grade at Dater Junior High. Well, Paul, I hope you're doing well. Please don't tell me what your age is now, because that'll make me feel even older. But I tell you what, teaching was the hardest job I've ever had in my life. I did a newspaper route, and that's when I had to walk it. I had 500 newspapers to deliver, and I had to walk, go back and forth all the time. And I've done all kinds of things. But teaching was the hardest, and teaching may be the most important job that I've ever had, because it's very important. But Paul, thank you. I hope you're doing well. Jane Lawson, you're leaving? Yeah, but May 31st is my last day. Or no, May 21st is my last day, and after that I'll be around occasionally to fill in or help them out with stuff. But it's time. My wife and I, we're not traveling kind of people. We're kind of homebodies. So look for more time to, do things that need to be done around the house, walk the dogs. I like to ride my bicycle, and we're real close to the bike trail out by 50 West. So. Okay, and then Debbie, whoops, I just missed that. Debbie Scheit said, so sad you weren't on tonight. My usual watch from 5 to 7. We were on, but because of basketball, they had to move us to 19.3. If you've got Spectrum, I can never find it, to tell you the truth. But it's available on that 19.3. If you're looking at it over the air, it's just 19.3. But it was available. We were on, but we had to move because Fox had basketball on. Okay? And Paul, well, thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. So Jody Hurst says, what are your feelings about the upcoming tornado season? Do you really have an indication of how it will be, or TBD? Well, everything says to me that we're going to see a warming trend. We're going to have an increased number of systems coming out of the south and west. So I think it'll be a very active, severe weather season. However, that doesn't pinpoint exactly where the highest activity will be. So I'm not saying that we're going to see a lot of severe weather here in Cincinnati or the Cincinnati region, but everything says to me that we're going to have enough to be concerned about. So, okay, everybody, that is, I've got to get going. It's 8:05. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back all the rest of this week at 7:15, and we'll talk more about that system that's coming our way Sunday into Monday. And I tell you what, you might end up being surprised, because we've looked at this time and time again over the years, and oh my gosh, 5 runs in a row that low is going to get us, and then it begins to veer. And so we'll keep tracking it, so you won't be surprised when it does or doesn't get here. So thank you for joining me. Have yourself a nice evening, and I'll be back tomorrow at 7:15. And of course, I'm on Fox 19 tonight at 10.